Alrighty folks, this is Lurch from Ireland Gaming and welcome to Back to Basics episode 2, where we're going to be adding our very first basic engine to our new hull. I think this is still a little bit long, so I'm going to build the engine near the front, so just in case we want to take the end off it and it will save us having to rebuild sections of the hull. So we're going to go to the Fuel Engines tab. I'm going to turn this down to what you guys are going to see. We have the electric engine disabled, the adapters are disabled, turbochargers and stuff like that are disabled, so we're going to just use the very basic components. Right now we start off with the fuel engine generator, which is the very first and most important block. It's the core block. You connect your crankshafts to this. So let's place this down. I'm just going to put this on the floor of the hull, somewhere near the front. We're going to be building a very small engine. Fuel injection engines are highly inefficient on fuel. They drink it like there is no tomorrow. But they are very easy to build, so that's why we're going to start with these. The next part you need is a crankshaft. You can build these connected directly off the face of the engine block, and it has to be off this one face. It won't connect on the other side. You see here, it's a blue indicator showing that it will not connect no matter how much I can click. You can hear me clicking there. The crankshafts here, you can see if you look in the top right, there's a little notation to say crankshaft connected. It's a good idea to keep an eye on these little notes because they normally tell you exactly what the component is doing, some extra information about them. The next thing we have to add is our cylinder, and this is basically the part that actually produces the power. You have to connect these to a crankshaft, or you can connect them directly to the face of the engine here. But we're not going to do that, we need more than one of them. So let's put the crankshaft back on, make sure it's connected, and put the cylinder on the front. You can rotate these, but you have to use the bottom of the cylinder to connect to a crankshaft. I'm going to introduce you here to these little green attachment points. These are very, very important to pay attention to. If we look at the little trumpet end that is right in front of you here, facing towards the camera, that is the connection point for attaching two other blocks. You'll see there's a number of little bullet tips on the other faces. Those are parts that other blocks can connect to this one. You can see the crankshaft at the bottom there has those little bullet tips. And we have this little trumpet tip which denotes where they attach to. They're kind of like male-female connectors in sort of many other walks of life, like plugs and cable types and all those. So it allows you to see where parts can connect. This thing you can see now attaches correctly there. But if we try to connect two of these bullet tips to each other, they just won't work. Let's put our cylinder on here. And I want to put another cylinder here. There's a reason for this. The injectors, as you can see, have two little trumpet tips. And this means that they have two connection points, and it allows me to place one connection point to connect to two cylinders. It allows us to get a little bit more efficiency out of our part, and makes the most of the part that we have. So we have a fuel injection engine here, and these cylinders, if you mouse over them, say they have 0 carburetors, 0 superchargers, 0 turbochargers. Maximum power output is 200, but that is per cylinder. We look at the engine block here, we'll see the maximum power output is 400. That is because a cylinder provides 200 engine power to every cylinder that it is attached to. So it is providing 200 power to this cylinder below it, and this cylinder as well. If I was to attach another 2 injectors here, because it's in symmetry mode, you'll see this maximum power output is now 600 because it now has 3 fuel injectors. While this seems like a great idea, fuel injectors or any type of power production on a cylinder increases its heat level. And heat is something that you have to be very aware of whenever you're building your engines. If you go into the Q menu by pressing Q while you have your mouse hovered over an engine generator here, you can bring up this scary looking menu. You don't need to worry about all of this for now. This cylinder heat chart in the bottom left is kind of the important part. We can't test our engine yet because we have no power output, so it won't turn on. We also have no fuel, which is another thing that we'll have to add later. Right now, I'm just going to build the rest of the engine and explain how it works. We're going to get rid of these because we don't need them. This engine already produces 400 power, which is actually reasonably reasonably good for such a small size. We're also going to add a radiator block. These radiators reduce the cooling on a cylinder by a percentage, so spamming them isn't necessarily the best idea. They end up actually reducing the efficiency of your engine because they cost power efficiency or fuel efficiency just by being attached. You'll see radiator area 2 meters squared, fuel use increased by 1.014142, 2 power radiator flow. That is a slight inefficiency in our fuel, but it helps to cool the 2 cylinders that are there. The most efficient way to cool cylinders is to use these exhaust blocks. These are pretty hairy to connect, but if you make use of the little trumpet connectors and the bullet tips, you can get a really good idea on how they're supposed to connect. This is a corner part, and I'm going to route these these exhaust fumes together so that they look, a little bit better. Now, this will attach to the side here, and this is an output. You'll see that this now has 2 exhausts connected and 0 turbos for heat reduction. We'll cover turbos later, but for heat reduction, this is the best way to do it. We're going to also turn this around a little bit, turn it around again using the tab key, and connect it here. You connect exhausts directly to cylinders or other exhausts, so we can use a throughput pipe. These different pipe types have different connections. This one, you can see, has 1 bullet tip, and 2 trumpet tips. And this is perfect for what we want here. You'll see that it connects on the left hand side and on the upwards face there as well. So we can use this to connect to both that exhaust and this cylinder. You'll see now in the top right it says 2 exhaust gases passing through the next piece of pipe. Hooray! That means that these are a little bit cooled now. I'm going to pop another exhaust corner pipe on here just for posterity, but it's probably enough already. So that is our very basic engine. Now we want to turn this into a prefab so that we can put another one down somewhere else on the ship. This is a really, really useful method for making, for speeding up your builds. I know this is a pretty scary menu, but you'll find the prefabs down here when you're in the build menu. You can rotate this box, and it's a good idea to have the little arrow as the top, because you'll see these settings on the right. We have the width you can adjust there, the height, and you'll see it moving in the background, and we have the length as well. This engine is 3 by 3 by 2. So let's set our 3 by 2 is the height, and the length is 3. We set the box around it and then left click. You'll see it makes all these little boxes, and that is a representation of those boxes that we had built down there. We now have a prefab, and we can name this. And that means that whenever I want, I can go here and build, ta-da, a fuel injection engine. We now have 2 of them, which saves me having to rebuild the exact same thing over again. Before we go, I'm going to introduce you to fuel. This is the Processed Resources tab, and this is where you'll find things like ammo processors, resource gatherers, all the important resource things for keeping your ships ticking over and working. We'll cover more of these in the future, but for now we're just going to add some fuel. Fuel injection engines are extremely fuel inefficient. They cost a lot of fuel, so we're going to need quite a lot of fuel. Let's grab one of these 3x3. It's often a good idea to use these larger parts when you can, because it reduces the block count. That's actually why I've built the whole ship out of beams. I've now added 3 of these resource fuel storage boxes, and that, if you look in the bottom right of the screen, provides us with 27,000 fuel. That's loads and should keep us going for absolutely ages. It's probably a bit much, and probably more than we need. But it'll do for now, and it'll give us, something to get started. You'll find as you build vehicles in this, you'll chop and change a lot and move things around. And it's often better to try and avoid doing this, but for things like this and testing, it doesn't hurt, and these are quite easy to move. But that's going to be it for the engine tutorial. I hope that helps you get a basic understanding of the engines, and we're going to move on to the next episode, where we're going to start doing some other more fun stuff. I do hope you enjoyed the episode. Any likes, subs or comments are really, really awesome. I love hearing from you guys, and I read every single comment. As always, take it handy, and have a bloody good day.